Okay guys, welcome back. Dr. H here, and today I'm doing a 10-minute beginner's tutorial to coding in Unity. So let's get stuck in. So coding, or scripting as it's called in Unity, is done using a language called C#. You can create a new C# script by going create C# script here. And I'm just going to call this script coin control, because it's going to control a coin I'm going to create in my scene. So if I double click the script, it will load up the scripting program. In my case, Dreamweaver. In most cases, MonoDevelop. Either way, it doesn't matter. Now, there are a lot of coding tutorials out there, and some of them are very useful. But in order to be able to use any of them, you need to know about three basic things. You need to know about functions, methods, and variables. And I've seen a lot of tutorials refer to these, and I've never yet seen a tutorial that adequately explains what they are. So I'm going to use an example to demonstrate. I'm going to go into Unity and I'm going to create a coin. I'm just going to create a basic 3D object. I'm going to make it a cylinder. I'm just going to frame in on that cylinder by pushing F. I'm going to shrink it down until it's basically coin sized, and then I'm going to lift it up and tilt it towards. In case you're wondering how I'm tilting it towards, if you hold Command and then click, it moves it through exactly 15-degree iterations. So I can get it pretty much perfectly on 90 degrees. So in order for my coin control script to work, I'm going to need to attach it to the game object. So I simply drag it across here, and now my coin control script is attached to what is going to be my coin. What I would like to do is I'd like to make my coin spin. In order to do that, I'm going to need to type some code into this script. Anywhere that you see void, like void start or void update in the C# scripting language, this is a function. A function tells the script when to happen. Inside the functions, you can write various different methods. The method tells it what to do. Let me give you an example. Void update continuously happens. It gets called once every frame, and there are 30 frames per second. So it gets called 30 times a second. It's constantly checking to see what's happening, what's happening, what's happening. So anything that you want to be continually happening, like movement, for example, you would put inside void update. Inside void update, I'm going to write a method. Remember, the method is telling it what to do. This particular method, I'm going to tell it to transform.rotate. Rotate. And then for the moment, I'm just going to say to move 15 degrees in the x-axis, 15 degrees in the y-axis, and 15 degrees in the z-axis. Final thing I'm going to need here is times time dot delta time. So let me just get into how this works a little bit. Oops. Transform. The transform part of the script means that it's going to change the game object the script is attached to in some way. It's either going to rotate it or scale it or translate, which means move it. The second part, rotate, means that it's going to rotate it. You then have this bracketed section here where we have degrees in the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. And the best way to think about this is to imagine that my coin is a little lump of plasticine. If I rotate it in the y-axis, it's like someone stuck a pencil straight through the top and they're spinning it round. So if I push the W translate tool, I can see where the three axes are. So if I was to rotate it through the y-axis like this, it would move like that. Through the x-axis, it would move like that. And through the z-axis, it would just spin round like that. I'm just going to put that back to the way it was before I started and get back to the code. So just so we can see these working, I'm going to change that one to 0 and that one to 0. And then I'm going to click Save. I save Command S. I go back into Unity, and because it's got the script attached, if I play, it should start spinning round. So it's spinning through the x-axis. Times time.delta time will make it spin in real time. So the method of transform rotate with these individual parameters here will make it rotate 15 through the x-axis. So finally, I want to talk about variables. Now, variable is actually a terrible description for the sort of thing that it is. It's not a variable, it's a container that can contain only one type of thing. But within that container, the amount that you have can vary. That's why it's called a variable. Let me give you a better example. Here, I've got 15. This is a number. This is a whole number with no decimal places. So this is called an integer. The type of variable this would be is an integer. Now I could, let's say, if I go back into Unity and I push play and I decide that that's spinning too fast, I could go back into my script and I could take it down to 7, resave it, go back into Unity, and I could push play. And now I might decide it's spinning slightly too slowly. And then I could go back into my scripting program again, take it up to 10, and I could go so on and so forth. However, I don't really want to do that. What would really be useful is if I could put a little placeholder here that just knows that this is a whole number. And then I could change that number in Unity over here in the inspector. That's what a variable allows you to do. So for example, I'm going to go up here. The general order of a script is that variables all come at the top, functions are declared as they go, and obviously methods are declared within functions. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to make this public because that means it will show up in the inspector of Unity over here. I'm then going to say that it is a public integer. I'm then going to give it a name, and I'm going to call this one X rotation, just so I know what it is. Oops, I don't want that like that. I'm going to call it X rotation like that. Finally, I'm going to put a semicolon. You'll notice I put a semicolon there as well. This is effectively end of line. If you don't put a semicolon, then the scripting program reads down to the next line as though it was one big long line, and it can lead to errors. So now I'm going to save that there, and I'm going to copy the name of this variable, and instead of 10, I'm going to paste it into there and save. So the script is expecting whatever is in here to be a whole number. And because I've tagged my variable as an integer, it will be. If I click save now and go back into Unity, you'll see it's rotating here for a second. It will update unless I get any errors. And then the X rotation is currently set to 0. Now, I could set that to 12, push play, and it will start spinning at 12. What I could then do, if that's too fast, for example, if I don't maximize it. So I've just turned maximize off so I can see my inspector over here. I can change this rotation in real time. I could take it down to 2 and I can see what 2 looks like in real time. I could take it up to 5. I could see what 5 looks like. I could take it up to 500, which is obviously way too fast. Now the important thing is, when I push play again to come out of test mode, the variable here will go back to whatever it was set to before. If I've decided I want a new number, like say 10, then I need to retype it in and save that. Let's just quickly save the game. I'll call it game. Save down here in the assets folder. Let's go back into my scripting program and see what else we could do. Well, the first thing that we could do is this. I can copy that script and paste it and paste it. I can change that to Y and I can change that to Z. And then if I put the Y rotation in instead of 0 where it's expecting Y, wrote there, and the Z rotation in instead of 0 where it's expecting the Z, wrote there, and save, you'll instantly see, if I just click on the coin here, that I've now got these different rotations here. I could set it 10 by 10 by 10, and then it would kind of spin in all directions at once. Like that. Kind of gyroscopic effect, which is kind of fun, but I'm going to set it back to 0 and 0, because that's the way I like it. Now I can do other things as well. In order to demonstrate this, I'm going to bring a quick player controller in with assets, import package, characters. I'm going to click on the import button here, and then if I expand my assets and standard assets, characters, first person character and prefabs, I'm just going to drag a first person controller in here because what I want to do is I actually want to collect that coin. It's going to be the start of my basic collection game. Let's go back to my assets folder here. And there's my coin. So the first thing I'm going to do when I brought a player in, because they come with their own camera, is I'm just going to delete the main camera so I don't get this error message. There are 2 audio listeners. Yes, there are. One is the main camera. The other is the first person character. I'm just going to delete the main camera here. Command delete. Now I only have one. Clear that and I shouldn't get any errors. The console, incidentally, is where you check if there are errors. I'll deliberately create one in a second so we can see how that works. I'm just going to go back to my project. So what I want to do, I'm just going to rename my coin. If you're wondering how I did that, I just hit enter. It allows you to rename that floor. Change the name of anything that's in there. In order to collect my coin, I'm going to need a new function. The void start function is no good to me. The void update function I'm going to leave where it is. I'm going to create void on trigger, double G, enter. And in case you're wondering, yes, the capitals are important. You need capitals exactly where I've got them. hit the 2 brackets there, because all functions have brackets after them. You don't need the space there. And then what I'm going to do is hit enter, and I'm going to enter these 2 squiggly brackets here. And just because I like to organize my stuff this way so I can see what's going on, I'm going to have that squiggly bracket there and there. In fact, I'm going to do the same thing there and there. I just like to be able to see what's in here. Now, void on trigger enter means that when the player enters the trigger of this coin, he's going to pick it up. So what's the trigger? Well, the trigger is this collider on it. So if I push play, at the moment, my coin is solid. If I move up to it, I bounce off it because it's got a collider on it. However, if I change that collider to a trigger, and I'm going to need to do this, if I change that collider to a trigger and I move up to it, you can see that now I move straight through. Like that and that. Now, if I'm just collecting a coin, I don't actually need it to be solid because as soon as I move up to it, I collect it. If I needed a trigger on something that did need to be solid, then I'd have to add another collider of some sort in the physics add component. But I'm not going to do that because this is a coin and all I want to do is collect it. So, in order to collect the coin, first of all, I've made its collider a trigger. Now, I do the scripting. I'm going to go into my function, void on trigger enter, and I'm going to say, if, oh, one very important thing. I'm just going to need in here, because I'm using a collider, I'm just going to need to put other collider. That tells it that I'm going to use a collider and I'm going to call it other. It's going to be important in this script here. So I'm going to say if other dot game object dot tag is exactly equal to player, and I know that player is one of the preset tags that's in there. You can have any tag you like, but you need to create it separately. So if something called player enters the collider, enters the trigger of this, then destroy game object. Oops, destroy game object. And because I've now finished my statement, now I put the semicolon and I save. That is essentially one line of text. As far as the computer's concerned, that's one line of code. I've put it on 2 lines because it's an if-then clause. If these conditions are met, then this happens. So if I save that and I go back into Unity and push play, when I walk up to it, oh, I've got an error. So what's my error? Namespace other could not be found. I know exactly what I've done. I have used the old JavaScript system. Collider other. That way round in C#. I spent so long doing it JavaScript, I forgot how to do it C#. Clear that error. Push play. Now if I walk up to the coin and try to collect it, nothing happens. All my scripts are right. The script is on the coin, still on there from before, but it's not working. And the reason for that is because in my script, I've told it that if the thing that's bumping into it is tagged player, you should destroy the game object, take it out of the game like it's been collected. Unfortunately, the player isn't tagged player yet. I have to go FPS controller, tag, and then I can choose from all these options here, and you can create new ones with this. And this one I'm going to use is player. Just quickly save that. If I now play, you should see, as soon as I move up to the object disappears from the game, and coin has also disappeared from the hierarchy here because I told it to be destroyed. Thank you very much for watching this basic tutorial on scripting in Unity. In later tutorials, I'll show you other functions, methods, and variables, and how you might use them to get what you need. Thank you very much for watching.